Today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to do an analysis of gunshot residue. This is for a project for school at Colorado Technical University. The whole goal of this project is to find out the disbursement rate of .380, 9mm, and .45 at 3 feet, 3 yards, and 5 yards. I'm also going to do it on red shirts and on blue shirts, dark blue shirts. The reason why I'm doing that is the white shirts are going to be the control shirts to kind of see if there's any gunshot residue at all that you can see with your naked eye. And then the red shirts are a slightly darker color. And then for the blue shirts, those are going to be really dark colors. So honestly, I'm probably not going to be able to see any gunshot residue with my naked eye. So I'm going to take these shirts back to the lab and I want to see the disbursement rate of the gunshot residue for each of those calibers. So I want to mark on each one of the shirts the distance, the caliber, and the firearm that I use. And I'm shooting 1 round at each, just one. And it's cold out here. So I want to get this done and get home where it's warm. So let's get started. Before we actually get started, I want to show you guys, if you don't know anything about firearms or ammunition, this is the .380, okay? Now, the projectile is the same diameter as a 9mm, okay? You see that? They're the same diameter. But there's less powder in this .380 cartridge because it's shorter. There's more powder in this 9mm, obviously, because it's longer. So you can actually have a heavier bullet for your 9mm than you can your .380. The .380 bullet, the actual bullet, there's 4 components: your primer, your casing, your bullet, and then your powder. The actual bullet for the .380 is a little bit shorter as well. Now your .45, that's this guy, obviously is going to have a lot more punch and a heavier bullet. I think this bullet is actually 230 grains, okay, versus a 115 grain 9mm. So I wanted you guys to see the differences, and I'll take a picture of these at the house if I remember, and post it up. But that's the 3 cartridges that we're going to use today. Okay, like I said before, this is going to be, the white shirts are going to be the control shirts. You should be able to see some kind of gunshot residue on these shirts, especially at 3 feet, I would imagine anyway. And then 3 yards, I think it's going to spread out. And then 5 yards, I don't know if you're going to get any gunshot residue at all. But I need to mark them to make sure that I know exactly which ones were which. So this first batch is going to be the .380. So that's Glock 42. And I'm going to do white shirts, then I'm going to do red shirts, then I'm going to do blue shirts, and then put that away, and then go to 9mm. So this is the 3 feet, .380 Glock 42. 3 yards, 5 yards, .380 Glock 42. So I'll mark each and every one of them that same way, and that way I can go and analyze this at the lab. All right, guys, this is that 3 feet. Now, I want you guys to understand something. My 3 feet is at my feet. So when I hold it out, it's probably going to be more like 1.5 feet to the actual target. Here we go. Let's go over here to 3 yards. This is 3 yards, guys. 3 yards. And then this is going to be 5 yards. So I'm looking at the 3 foot one right here, 3 foot, .380, and there's hardly any, I mean, there's definitely some gunshot residue there, which is perfect, right? But then we go over here, even at 3 yards, I don't see much at all. There may be some here and here. And then at 5, There's almost nothing except for some gunshot residue right where the hole is. All right, 3 feet, red shirt, 380. 3 yards, red shirt, 380. And then 5 yards, red shirt, 380. Of note, there may be some differences in shirt material. We try to get 100% cotton for all of them and the same brand, but it was hard to find the same brand at 100% cotton. So there's some slight differences with the material. It is cold. 3 feet, 380, blue shirt. 3 yards. You can see the little white freckles from probably unburnt powder or whatever. So that's pretty interesting. I want you guys to see something, okay? So I'm about to go to 9mm, and not only is the 380 a smaller cartridge and it has less powder in it, but the barrel is significantly shorter, which means there may not be enough time for all the powder to burn before it leaves the barrel, if that makes sense. Versus my 9mm. You can see that the barrel is actually, for my 9mm, the barrel is about the length of this entire gun of the 380. But there's also more powder in the 9mm. So that's something to take note of. Here we go. Pretty similar pattern from the 380. Same here, a little bit more gunshot residue with the 9mm here than with the 380. And about the same here with the 380, so. I mean, about what we would expect, right? It's going to be interesting to see if I can find any gunshot residue on the 5-yard targets. You can see some here and here on this red one, which is about the same dispersion as when we did it with white. I just started my phone with my nose because it's so cold. I don't want to take my gloves off. Anyway, before I go to the 45, I want to show you guys something. I want you to look at the barrel. This is the 9mm. Look how wide the barrel is, the opening there. And then this is the 45, okay? So even though there's a lot more powder in the 45 cartridge, there's a lot more room for it to move as well, okay? That might be important when we start doing an analysis. Just something to think about as well. Now I want to stop the phone with my nose. Woo, look at that. And 5 yards. There's definitely a substantial difference right here. It's like it might be burn or something. This is 3 feet. And I'm quite surprised there's not a lot of gunshot residue at 3 yards with that 45. And I don't see any, maybe one right here. Oh, just fell off. Interesting. 3 feet. So I'm actually quite surprised of some of the results already. The white shirts that we used, you can obviously see gunshot residue on the 3-foot targets for all 3 calibers. Where I'm surprised is that you could hardly see any gunshot residue with the 45 at 3 yards. But with the 9mm cartridge, you could see gunshot residue. And a little bit with the 380. Now, as a reloader, I understand that different powders burn differently. What I mean by that is some burn faster than others. So, for example, the 45 cartridges that we're using, I don't know what powder is in there, but it probably burns pretty fast, and therefore it dissipates before it actually gets to the target at 3 yards, let's say. Whereas the 9mm might not be as fast. It might not burn as fast. So it might actually get to the target at 3 yards and maybe even 5 yards. So those are kind of some interesting observations so far. The next step is to take all these things to the lab, see if we can see any gunshot residue or any kind of unique things about either caliber or range or whatever. Ultimately, I'm trying to find out if we can see any gunshot residue on any of the blue shirts at any range with other methods. So, okay guys, so when I got home, I decided that I wanted to try to educate those who may not be gun people on how a cartridge works. There's 4 main components of a cartridge, right? So when we go to the store and say, hey, we want to get 50 rounds of 9mm or whatever, we don't actually mean rounds. We mean cartridges, right? But whatever, that's just some nuances. A cartridge has 4 main components. That's your case, right? Whatever's going to contain the powder and also contain the blast as well when you fire it. You have your bullet or your projectile. This is a 9mm projectile. This is a 9mm case, okay? Then you have your primers, which I have several different primers up here, and I'll talk about. And then you have your powder, okay? So those are the 4. Your case, your bullet, your primer, and your powder. So what happens is that this primer gets loaded in the bottom of this case. Then the powder gets put into the cartridge. There's a certain amount that you can put in there, and depending on the burn rate and all that stuff. So that's not for this video, it's for maybe another video. And then your bullet or projectile goes on top, right? So then that would create the entire cartridge, right? I have some dummy cartridges over here, and basically that's what it would come out looking like, right? And then you put that in your firearm. When the firearm is chambered and then the firing pin hits the back of the cartridge, which would be the primer then ignites and causes the powder that's inside and contained to also ignite. And then because of the ignition, it's going to create gases that make this projectile move forward. And as it moves forward, it goes through the rifling of the barrel and then starts to spin, and then the bullet goes, and then after the bullet comes the gunshot residue, as we like to call it. So that's how this is all linked together. In front of me, I have 4 different primers. The only primer I don't have is a large pistol primer, which would be the primer you would put, let's say, in a 45 that I was shooting at the range, okay? But I do have a small pistol primer. I do have a small rifle primer. I have a large rifle primer and then a Magnum rifle primer. All right, so these 2 are the same size and diameter and also about the same height, okay? They're both large rifle primers, but this one's Magnum. It's supposed to have a little more oomph to it, I suppose, than, let's say, this one, because it's Magnum. I don't know if that's true or not. That's just kind of the way it goes, okay? Over here, however, this is what's interesting. This small rifle primer and this small pistol primer are also both the same height and diameter. Theoretically, if you were to put this primer in a pistol cartridge, you could have more overpressure in your pistol. And conversely, you could put this pistol primer in a small rifle cartridge and then not have enough spark, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, just some a little bit of knowledge just for you guys to kind of understand how the firearms work. If you're going to go into forensics or something like that, this is just your simple, basic understanding. Later on, I'll take these down into the garage, and I'll literally put these on the concrete, and I'll hit them incrementally to see how much pressure it takes to make one of these things go off. What I'm going to demonstrate there is it's really hard to get these things to fire. It is really hard to get these things to fire unless you hit it dead center of the actual primer itself. So I'll demonstrate that later. For now, what I'm going to demonstrate is how fast the powders burn. I have 5 different powders in front of me. The only powder that I have that is not rifle is this one. This is the only powder that I have that is for pistols only, okay? The rest of these powders are for rifles. But what I want to demonstrate is how fast they burn. There's a different burn rate for each one of these. So if you remember what I was talking about at the range, when I was shooting the 380, the 9mm, and the 45, those particular cartridges could have had wildly different powders in them, which would have a burn rate different than, let's say, the other one or the other one, right? Not to mention the barrel for each one of them are obviously different diameters, so there's not a lot of space there for the powder to burn. So I was quite surprised at 3 yards that I didn't get a lot of gunshot residue on the white shirt using 45, but then I started thinking there's a lot more space for the powder to burn inside the barrel versus, let's say, the 9mm or the 380. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take a half teaspoon of each one of these separately, and I'm going to burn them on this scrap piece of wood here, and just kind of illustrate the burn rate for each one of these. Okay, so the first one we're going to do is H4831SC from Hodgdon. This is a rifle powder, okay? We're going to get a half teaspoon here. Level it off. Okay, cool. I'm going to put it all together. I want you to check out these pellets. See the shape of them. The shape of them matters. Okay, I don't know why it matters, but it does matter. And you'll see. I think we'll have some round ones in there too. But anyway, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna set this ablaze. Now the reason why I'm doing it on this scrap piece of wood is because the wood is so dense. I know that nothing's going to happen. Nothing else is going to catch fire except for this, and it's only going to take a couple of seconds, if that, to burn. Okay? So don't try this at home unless you know what you're doing.
Whoa.
Pretty cool. We have our window open, so no big deal there. You kind of see how that happens, and the gases have somewhere to escape. Now, if we had that in this cartridge, let's say, and it was trapped, it would have to go somewhere, which is why the bullet exits out the barrel like it does. Okay, so on to the next one. The next one we're going to do is the pistol powder. Okay, HP38 also by Hodgdon. Okay. And also check out the difference in its shape. Remember, the last one was a rifle powder. This is a pistol powder. Okay? Here we go. Again, don't try it at home unless you know what you're doing. I hope you guys see the difference between how fast that burnt versus how fast this one burnt. Pretty wild stuff. Okay, so this one is 7828 SSC from IMR. This is typically used for like Magnum rifles, so it should burn pretty slow. Again, you can see the shape of the actual powder. Let's see how fast this one burns. Pretty slow, comparatively. These were similar. These two were similar, but this one was definitely faster. Here's the H4350. This is a very sought after rifle powder. I can't really get a whole half teaspoon, but you'll see. So this is going to be a little similar to the other rifle powders. A little faster than, let's say, this one over here. And the last one is Hybrid H100. Again, another rifle powder. So it should burn pretty slow as well. Now, it is a lot thinner than the other ones. And you can see the shape is very, very different. A little more erratic. Wow, that's kind of cool. Mm-hmm. The reason why we're doing this is to see how fast these powders actually burn, because that may be important when you're looking at gunshot residue from, let's say, a crime scene or something of that nature. All right, so remember I said I was going to come out here with a hammer and I'm going to hit a primer and show you how hard it is to actually get these things to go off, okay? Now, a firing pin actually hits the center of this primer. This isn't a firing pin, right? So I got my glasses on because there is a chance to, you know, have something come back in my face or whatever. So we're just going to see how hard I have to hit it to get it to go off, okay? So lightly. I didn't even go off. It just kind of went over there. Fox sakes. All right, let's try another one. So that was the large rifle Magnum. This is the small rifle match. There it is. See how hard it took? It took a hard time. Now, it did do damage to my floor right here, so maybe I should find another way to do it. So you see that? Yep. It did do a little damage to my floor. Maybe I'll just do it on this wood now, okay? The reason why I wanted to do it on my concrete is to show you, again, how hard it is to get one of these things to actually ignite without actually punching the center of it. Small pistol primer. It didn't even ignite. It made a hole right here, but didn't ignite. All right, that didn't work, obviously. So it's a sacrifice for science. I'm just gonna do it right here on the concrete again. Okay. So this is the large rifle, not the Magnum, but the large rifle. Again, takes a lot to actually get those things to fire. I actually had to smash it in order for it to fire. All right, guys, if you like the video, like, subscribe, share, comment, do all the things in the YouTube universe, or Instagram or social media, so on and so forth. You get the picture. We really want to put out good content for you guys, not only for my customers, but also for fellow students. Obviously, forensics is a great tool to use for crime scene investigation and recreation. I really put a lot of effort into this, so I'd appreciate it. Additionally, I do have some affiliate links below, and check those guys out, specifically Mantis Training Systems and Attorneys on Retainer. Check out.